Welcome back to another episode of Confessions of a Black Therapist. It is your girl, Miss Parker. Hope you all have been having a wonderful week thus far, even though I know it's just Monday. And so I wanted to touch base today off of the topic overcomer. And so yesterday, Sunday night, my husband and I took time to sit and enjoy just being in the moment. Right? We watched two movies. The first was The Marvels, which we are a huge Marvel comic fan, and I'm really excited because they are bringing out. Looks like they're going to bring out the new X-Men movies. So don't judge me. Like I said, we're a huge Marvel comic home, although our oldest daughter is starting to cling more toward DC comics. And so we believe Marvel is better, but that's another debate in itself. And so the other movie that we watched was The Overcomer, which was by the Kendrick brothers. Now, I was familiar with the content of the Kendrick brothers because I had seen War Room. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Kendrick brothers, they are ordained ministers who use their voice and their vision to spread the gospel of God, of the Lord. And so the Overcomer came out in 2019 and is about a coach who feels like things are falling apart. Like his life is just not adding up. And so the vision he has for the basketball team was to go to the title, to win the title of the state champion. And then layoffs occurred in a factory that caused people to lose their jobs, right? And so it changed life as they knew it. And so he was being stretched to do something outside of his comfort zone. And so during that stretching process, he has to kind of rebuild himself. But in the process, he is building and mending a relationship between a father and a daughter, as well as helping to fill in gaps and pieces within the school. So as the movie unfolds, I kept thinking about the right now, right? And how COVID came and changed lives as we know it, and businesses are continuously every day laying people off. And we are being stretched in ways that we didn't think was possible. The issues that these folks were facing are still things that we face every day, right? And so the main character, his name was John, and he was the coach. And it was John and his wife, and he had two boys. And so they both were teachers who tried their best to be supportive of one another, their kids, friends, and did their best to juggle the many roles that they had left. That they were in. And so left and right things were shifting, and neither one of them could understand why, right? And so the wife tried to be encouraging, but her delivery was off. And so me and my husband kind of talked about that, and how sometimes we have to check our delivery, right? But the husband was so consumed by what was going wrong, he couldn't think of what was going right. And now, I don't know about y'all, but this was me that I was watching, right? And so we get so consumed about what's not happening for us, that we don't get to see what's happening for us. So he eventually shut down because he was consumed by what was, right? There was a scene in the movie where he meets a man by accident, and he was on assignment with a church member and stumbled into this man's room, and this man is blind. And he has many health conditions, from diabetes and, of course, past history of just kind of not taking care of himself. So they became good friends. And then the coach's frustration, the man asked, like, who are you? So the coach continues to ramble on and on about his roles and didn't, truly define who he was. So the man said, if I stripped you of all of your roles and titles, who would you say you are? Right. And so the man thought and finally said, I'm a believer and I follow God. And the man said, as a believer, why is it that last on your list? And so this got me to thinking about, who I am, what are my priorities, and what's most important in life. So y'all hold that thought. Okay. The thought is, how would you define you if asked by a total stranger? Okay. And you can't use your titles or your roles. Now, the other main character was this young lady who struggled with her identity. And so her mother died from drugs. Her father allegedly died from the same. And now she has been living with her grandmother all of her life. She loves to run. The only dilemma is that she suffers from asthma. And whenever she runs, she has to have her pump. So her body would often limit what she could do, but her mind told her that she could do it. She just needed help from an inhaler. So sort of like a lifeline, right? Something had to breathe into her to help her to make it through. In addition, she had a troubled spirit because she does not know who she is. It is in our moments of not knowing who we are where we allow things to rule over what we can and cannot do. So she was born into adversity, right? And so that's something that is beyond her control. Later, she meets the coach who did not want to coach cross country because he knew nothing about it, right? He knew nothing about the sport. He was being asked to learn a new skill, but coaching was always something that was in him, right? So he's an encourager. So remember, I said though he was being stretched with this new task, and so as the coach became closer to the man in the hospital, he discovered that the man used to run. God sends what we need right when we need it, and so he also learned that the man in the hospital was actually the track student's father, and that the grandmother lied to protect the little girl. However, what we think we are protecting people from or ourselves from is really hurting the other person or hurting ourselves. It's in the authenticity we find our truth. So the coach begins to wrestle with the decision of holding this information or telling the girl because he knew that this gentleman that he had just met, his time may be limited due to his health condition. So he prayed on it. He consulted with the principal, which is his higher up, because he knew the grandmother still held bitterness in her heart and probably wouldn't be in agreement with whatever decision they were going to make. So eventually he asked the girl what she wanted, and she wanted a relationship. She wanted to meet her father, to ask questions that have haunted her throughout the years, as she developed, as she grown. Um, so she got to the hospital and she was overwhelmed with emotions, right? So the things she went through to find answers for never made it out of her mouth. She went to try to figure it out and it never made it out. And this left her wondering, and she felt more lost than before. And so now, how many of you seek answers but still feel lost, right? So one thing she did was she pushed through, and she went back again. But this time she wanted to talk to him alone. It's in our seeking that we often have to walk alone, to find the answers that we need, right? So our brains will trick us into thinking that we have to understand, but in all actuality, understanding um, is of an earthly realm. And often the answers that we seek can only be found in a spiritual realm, right? And so later in the movie, she talked with her principal, and to kind of give context, she goes to a Christian private school that the principal pays for because the principal knew her mother. And so as she and the principal began to talk, the principal ministered to her and told her about God and how, he can bring peace and understanding. If she wanted, to dedicate her life to him, she, kind of walked her through that and then gave her scriptures and verses to read to do her own research, right? And decide for herself what was best. And I heard this sermon one time, and it said that God's best gift to us was the power of choice, right? He's not going to force anything on you, but He's going to allow you to choose. So, choosing the life we want and how we plan to live it is power in itself. Most of the times, of course, He would like you to do it with His guidance. But then the girl left and did her research, right? So, through her search, she found the vision God had for her life. She shared that the Lord spoke to her. So I began to think, seek out knowledge to gain clarity, but do not lean on your own understanding. Use faith to guide you along the way, and surround yourself with people that will encourage you. Okay, so also hold on to that thought. And the thought is everything happens for a reason. And so the last main character is the gentleman that is in the hospital and has these health conditions. And so, like I said, eventually he learns that he is the father of the track student. And so in the conversations with the coach, John, he discovers that this guy also played track, and that he gave, the coach some insight on how to train the student. And as the father grew weaker, however, he had, at a point in his life, given his life to Christ, and so he prayed for the daughter, he prayed for the coach, the grandmother, and asked God to preserve him, right? Because he had just gotten back into this child's life and he didn't want to lose it. So the coach and daughter were preparing for the state cross country championship. And so the coach decided to pre record the father coaching the daughter through the race. So he sat with him side by side, explained the course, and had the guy give instructions as she would come around. But how many of you know that the Father is always whispering to us, but we have to want to hear what he has to say, right? And so, with the support of her father, her faith, and determination, she was able to win the state championship even with asthma. So the daughter crossed the finish line. She passed out, but she won. And so she went straight to her father after her victory and thanked him. Um, Straight to her father after her victory and thanked him. Okay. So she was overjoyed that she got to share this experience um, with her father. So he wasn't there in the physical, but he was there in the spiritual. And I hate to sound like I'm preaching, but that spiritual presence can make a world of a difference when it comes to, turmoil or whatever we may be facing. So her father eventually passed away, and she mourned him, but was at peace because of the time that they shared with each other, the time that meant a lot to her. She was able to state that she had the best father in the 6 weeks that they had each other or grown to know each other, despite his past. And so the hole that was originally in her heart due to not knowing her father was eventually filled by his presence in God's love. So on the father's deathbed, he recorded messages to the daughter that you didn't see into the end, that she would receive every birthday up until she was about 30. So, which in my mind translated to our loved ones are absent from the body, but always present with us. And so, thus, the last thing that I want you to hold on to, the last thought is what can you overcome with the right tools, mindset, and spirit? Okay. So remember, excuse me, the three things I asked you to hold is one, how would you define you if you were stripped of your roles and titles, right? Two, everything happens for a reason. And then three, what can you overcome with the right tools, mindset, and spirit? All right. So hopefully you wrote those down or made a mental note, because those are what you should use to keep you, but more importantly, overcome certain situations. So let's define overcome, because I think it is important that we know what we are looking at, right? And so overcome is defined as the ability to succeed in dealing with a problem or difficulty, to defend, to conquer, prevail, or be overwhelmed with an emotion or have an overpowering feeling. So, all of these words come with strong intention. It basically states that you have done the work, beat the odds, and you have control over your emotions, right? Or you can at least label them and put them into words. So, how does overcoming align with knowing who you are? The thing is that you will be tested like John in the movie, and you will have obstacles that come to bring doubt. But if you know who you are, or who you are called to be, the doubt will die and not live, because you know that you were created for a purpose, right? And so remember our last episode, we talked about bigger. Um, and I read a quote that stated, you are your longest commitment. So you have to make yourself your priority, because no one else will, right? And it's important to spend time with you to discover what you like, what you dislike, what your triggers are, what's in your control, and what's not in your control, what you're willing to shed and what you are not, right? Because ultimately, again, you have that choice. And so this weekend, we buried my grandmother-in-law, and my great uncle. And so I didn't make it to my great uncle's funeral. But one thing that is the same at every funeral is someone tries to write your story in a few short paragraphs to go in the obituary. And it is mainly from the perspective of them, right? Versus how you would have wanted to be remembered. So as I sat and listened, and heard my grandmother-in-law say, these ninjas, right? Because she would, these ninjas. Um, and what was said about her life was absolutely essential, but her impact and the confidence she had in knowing herself rang louder to me versus the words that were written on that paper. And so she was the neighborhood mama, right? Who was God fearing and spoke her mind no matter what. So I thought, when I die, right, do I want people to write about what they thought of me versus what they knew of me, right? Without the titles and without the roles. So in that moment of grief, I thought she was an overcomer, right? Once her titles and roles were stripped away, she was an overcomer, period. Okay. And so we all know that in order to overcome, we have to have a struggle or a conflict or have strong emotions about something in our lives, right? And so we're always having some sort of conflict. Remember that psychological struggle. So, which then took me to everything happens for a reason. And in this time of grief, it got me to think about what's next. What's most important. And if you remember on Reasons and Seasons episode, we kind of broke this down a little further. But as I was watching this movie, it was clearer to me that everything is ordained and aligned to help you develop. Now, I know you may say, Crystal, that was a movie, sis. And listen, I get it. It was. I know it was a movie. But it was ordained for, me and my husband to watch it at that time. The message that I got from it was ordained, right? The message that I am delivering to you today is ordained. So it brought truth to reality. You see, I've lost and I've learned. The strength I gained are from lessons and pain. It is in our conflict, pain, hardship that we realize that something has to change, that our lives need more, that the common denominator in most of these equations is you, right? It's me, it's us. So you are the only thing that can change, right? You are the only thing that you can control in this world. So trying to control things that are outside of your control is what leads to stress, what leads to anxiety, and often can lead to depression because we're trying to find that control. And so I mourned my grandmother-in-law, but knew God had control. I was able to stand strong for my family because I had been there, before. I know what it felt like to lose a grandmother. I lost my maternal grandmother in 2005, but it still feels like it was yesterday. And that's how much of an impact she had on my life. But I know everything happens for a reason. And just like the movie, I cherished the time I had, even if I felt like it was short. I knew that her absence from the body did not mean absence from my life. And so I'm encouraging you to hold on to the memories, and carry out life to preserve the legacy because it was all ordained, right? So loss, conflict, pain, all help us to gain strength. It equips us to um, it equips us for something else. It helps to build a tool that you may need to use later, or a toolkit that you'll have to pull out every once in a while, especially when you are feeling discouraged, alone, afraid, or uncertain. So remember, how you define you matters, and everything you go through helps you to build who you are, right? And you are the only person that can control you. So others may try, but firm boundaries are essential to keeping your peace. Um, and so now ask yourself, what can you overcome with the right tools, mindset, and spirit? Right? So the little girl in the overcomer was able to gain tools through her word, consistency, meaningful relationship, faith, and belief in herself. Right? So she was able to change her mindset. She made a choice daily that were right for her. She told people what she needed in that moment, right? And then she created safe spaces for herself. And as she did this, she continued to grow confidently. So she trusted God's timing and not her own. She held his vision for her life close to her. She was able to get her spirit right by aligning her mind to stay in tune with her feelings. She became in tune with God, who showed her um, in his word that things, um, that she could do all things through him. But most importantly, she became in tune with herself and did not let anything steer her away. So, with the right tools, mindset, and spirit, that grief will subside. Okay. With the right tools, mindset, and spirit, they'll see your full potential and you won't have to prove anything. With the right tools, mindset, and spirit, you'll get what your heart desires if it's ordained, but don't force anything to happen. Let life flow the way it is supposed to flow. Let love guide you. along the way and let God into your life or whoever you believe in. But I told y'all, my house, we believe in the Lord. So that, He or whoever can help you prevail. So the waves of life come around us and often make it hard to breathe, just because um, it's a lot. But just like the airplane, where they say mask yourself before you mask someone else for safety. What have you been doing to help you breathe, to help you swim, to help you endure for another victory? How has your self care been? And if you think it's lacking, how will you continue to build it? What are you going to do that's different? What are you going to do to preserve yourself and then preserve others? So I won't lie to you at all. Okay. I'm preaching to myself today. It's been hard for me and my family. Often, what you want in your own life, um, we don't get it the way that we imagined, right? I never imagined this for my life, but it's what I wanted. So it comes in ways that we didn't see but needed. And so this movie was a reminder to me and you, if you're listening in, that you can overcome. So, like I told you, I'm a worryholic, right? I worry constantly about bills, the cost of food, keeping the lights on, getting my mortgage paid, paying for a car and all that comes with it. In the end, there's nothing left to enjoy life the way we or I envisioned it. And I'll say the key word, and that is I, right? This is not how I envisioned my life, but I am doing well. So, um, I always say none of us have lost any weight, including myself. The lights still work, obviously, because you're seeing me. We have our car and we're able to put some little bit of gas in it. Maybe not fill it every time, but we get some. And most of the bills are paid. Okay. Sometimes Peter gets the best of Paul, right? So don't judge me. But most importantly, we have each other. So the people in this movie reminded me of what is most important, and that is the people we love. The wife of the coach said it best. Sometimes I see things and I want to fix them because I love people so much. But then I realize that I have to just pray and tell the people I love them so that they know they are not alone. They know that someone is in their corner. They know that they can overcome, right? And so um, I wanted to extend that to you all on today, right? People will be people. Some you will dislike, some you will like, some you will adore, right? And so the ones that you dislike, pray for them and ask God to help you with whatever it is in their spirit that troubles your spirit. Okay. Help you to be able to work around that. The ones that you like, enjoy their company, learn from them, build each other up, right? And invest time with them as much as you can. The ones that you adore, of course, you're going to hold them closer, right? You're going to tell them how much you appreciate them. You're going to tell them what they have done for you, and how they've made a difference in your life. Check in on them because most of these folks are your strong friends, or your strong family members who don't ask too much, but are always there for you, right? And so they fight internal battles that no one knows about. Um, and something, something like just being on their mind, or that, you having them on the mind, helps them. And so be that listening ear, that shoulder to lean on, that sounding board to bounce ideas off of. Remind them that it is in our weaknesses that we gain the tools to overcome. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know that with inflation, death all around us, uncertainty, and all that is in the world, you will be discouraged, right? And so, with every death comes a rebirth. Who will you be this time? Remember that you serve a purpose, your life is ordained, and that you have the tools, mindset, and spirit to overcome. And so Psalms um, 34:18 states, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and save those who are crushed in spirit. So this is your SOS. Don't sit in a sinking ship as it goes down. Reach out to your lifelines, and in the end, the glory shall be yours. It is in our strength that we are able to see how much we can truly endure, and the rest of the battle is left to the Lord. So keep shining, keep growing, and keep loving one another. Until next time, family.